Good day, children. Today we are going to deal with one of the loveliest and most famous poem of the great poet William Wordsworth, Daffodils. Daffodils is a poem which focuses the beauty of nature. The poet expresses his joy and feeling for nature in the poem Daffodils. The poem is symbolizing rebirth and new beginning with the help of the term daffodils. It was inspired by an event on 15th April 1802 in which Wordsworth and his sister Dorothy came across a long belt of daffodils. And the poet goes on to describe the beautiful scene he came across while wandering about the hilly regions of Lake District in England. Later, this beautiful memory of daffodils pleases him and comforts him when he is lonely, bored, or restless. Now, before we start the poem, let's have a glance at the details of the great writer William Wordsworth. Wordsworth was a great poet who was well known as romantic and nature poet. He was one of the most important poets of his time. He was the pioneer of Romanticism in English literature, and he became the Poet Laureate of England in 1843. Laureate means it's an honor with an award for a person's outstanding work. So he became the Poet Laureate of England in 1843. His famous work, The Prelude, is considered to be the crowning achievement of English Romanticism, and it was dedicated to his dearest friend, the poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge. His remarkable lyrics are included in two volumes called The Solitary Reaper and I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud. Now, the poem Daffodils is also known as I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud as the first line of the poem. Now, let's start the poem Daffodils, written by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Now, in the line, I wandered lonely as a cloud, the poet compares himself to a piece of lonely cloud. The poet is wandering in a state of loneliness and detachment. Just like the clouds are moving overhead unattached to the scene, the poet is walking all alone, detached from the scenes of the nature that surround him. Now I'll tell you the reason why the poet used to feel lonely. When William Wordsworth was at the age of 7, his mother suddenly became sick with pneumonia and died. And at the age of 13, he lost his father also, leaving his 4 siblings as orphans. So since after that, he started to feel lonely. It was at that time he learned about loneliness or solitude, and he started to make something good out of it. When he was alone, he was free to imagine and feel things that others didn't, and he started to enjoy the beauty of the nature. He started to observe things. It's from those observations all these poems arose. Finally, the mountains, lakes, woods, and winds became his companions. He loved to walk alone among the mountains, lakes, and wilds of the lake. So it was at that time he came across this long belt of daffodils. So in the first line, the poet is comparing himself with a cloud. He just wandered like a cloud that floats on high over vales. O''er means it's over vales and hills. Vales means valleys. When all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. When all at once means suddenly. It was at that time suddenly he saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. A host means a large number of golden daffodils. Where did he see these golden daffodils? Beside the lake, beneath the trees. He saw these a large number of golden daffodils beside the lake, near the lake, beneath the trees, under the trees. And what they were doing there? They were fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Fluttering means moving in a light trembling manner. So they were moving and dancing in the soft breeze. It was such a charming scene that the flowers seemed to be fluttering and dancing in happiness in the soft breeze. He was so happy at the sight of the daffodils that they seemed to him dancing in joy. Now here the poet is personifying the flowers to human beings. That is why it is said them as dancing. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line. Now here the poet is comparing the line of daffodils to the stars that shine on the Milky Way. They were stretched in never-ending line, just like the stars that shine on the Milky Way. We know that on the Milky Way it is a cluster of stars. It's like number of stars which are uncountable. So the daffodils were shining brightly like the twinkling stars on the Milky Way. Along the margin of a bay. Along the margin means edge. Along the edge of a bay. Now bay is a small sea which has three sides. Now here it means at the edge of the lake there were daffodils stretching in never-ending line. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. At a glance means at a quick look. At a quick look itself, he saw 10,000 daffodils. 10,000 daffodils means the poet was so overwhelmed that he's exaggerating the scene by saying that 10,000 at a glance. Tossing their heads in sprightly dance. Tossing their heads means moving their heads in sprightly dance. Sprightly means lively dance. With full of energy they were dancing. Now, in the first two stanzas of the poem, the poet has used a figure of speech, simile, which means he has used comparisons in those two stanzas. In the first stanza, the line, I wandered lonely as a cloud, here the poet is comparing himself to a cloud. And in the second stanza, the poet compares the daffodils stretched in never-ending line to the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. Now, when such kind of comparisons are used in writing, it is referred to as figure of speech, simile. Here, the writer compares an object to another object using the words like or as. Such kind of comparisons are termed as simile.